I think, hi Jeff. I'm so great, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, you know.
Thank you all for coming.
Whoa. Well, I mean, that's the perfect introduction right here. Is Jeff Newsom, a literal legend. You're going to find out for yourself. It has been a joy to get to meet Jeff throughout Creative Mornings. Is what brought us together, and I got to learn about his amazing work, and you're about to be quite inspired and impressed. And so I'll just leave us at that. So round of applause for Jeff Newsom, everyone.
Thank you all for coming. It was a rainy day, but it seems to be getting a little better. Hopefully when we leave here, the sun will come out and you guys will be energized and invigorated. I started my career 34 years ago in Los Angeles. I then went to Pittsburgh, then New York City, San Francisco, back to New York City, Paris, Detroit, most recently Denver, and now I've been back in Detroit for the last 10 months. I started my career many years ago as a fashion stylist. Then I went to an art director, creative director, set stylist, prop person, freak, professional weirdo. It just flew into all kinds of different areas. Basically, design. I work in design. I just happened to fall into fashion, and fashion led to art, and then art led to philanthropy, and philanthropy led back to art, and it kind of all melded together. I got very lucky. I was never pitfalled into one thing. I think my greatest trait there was keeping my eyes and ears open and paying attention, seeing what was happening. Today I'd like to talk about happenstance. There's been, I'm going to say 3 or 4 really big moments where a person or mentor changed my trajectory in the creative world. And that was very important. This last year here in Detroit, I have gotten very inspired by the artist community here in the creative community. I've received my first utility patent and trademark for a medical device that will help millions of people, which is really exciting. Partnered with 2 amazing organizations, the DIA and the Henry Ford Museum, in concerns to my archive and my creative journey. I'm going to start with the DIA really quick. Tonight, if everybody is free, we are doing a gallery show at 2350, and 2350 is in Ferndale, right on Burdett. That show tonight is creatives from everywhere, artists. John Rowe, a friend of mine who is a photographer who I've worked with for many years, said, let's do a show, let's invite everybody in the creative community to create something. The show will go up, those pieces will be sold, and the benefit from that is all the proceeds go to a DIA program that I'm developing for photography. Photography is another one of my passions. And we will provide cameras for students in the DPS, not phones, actual cameras. They will learn how to use the camera, print their photo, and learn how creative starts. And I think that's really important. And it's a great program with the DIA. Tonight, please join us at between 5 and 10 at it's 2350 Gallery, all benefiting the DIA. And then alongside that, over the years I have collected garments and textiles in my fashion world, and I'm lucky enough to be able to donate those things to the Henry Ford and inspire other things. I mean, it's really simple. Giving back, and that's it. But I want to talk about happenstance because I'm going to tear up, because it's pretty fun. Years ago in LA, I was a weirdo kid, came from Michigan, wanted to be in fashion, and thought, oh, LA is a great place to do that. So I had met a lot of people, and I met a specific person named Jerome, and he was a seamstress, and he was working on a film. And his roommate was a costumer, and his name was Mark Bridges. And we became friendly, and we had fashion in common, and it was very interesting, and I was young, and he said to me, you should really be a stylist. I'm like, what the fuck is a stylist? Like, what's that? And this is 1989, and that kind of business never really existed. We would talk about creative direction, we would talk about art direction, but it wasn't so public. It was all behind the scenes. It was done in advertising, but there weren't these titles. He said, you should be a stylist. And at that moment I thought, I can make money off this. I can dress people up. And that was it. He introduced me to another person named George Newsom. And George was a stylist for this lady named Madonna. And they were doing Truth or Dare film preview at some club. And they're like, can you help us? And I'm like, sure. And that's how that happenstead started. It was just weird and odd. And I'll never forget it because Mark went on to win 4 Academy Awards for costume design. And happenstance, once again, led me to a career. That person then, after doing that Madonna thing, I met David LaChapelle, and David was doing something in LA, so he came to New York. I stopped, I placed it at my parents, they were living in Pittsburgh, and they're like, oh, you need to go to school, you're fucking around, this creative thing's never gonna work. So I went to Pittsburgh for like a summer, and thought I'd go to Carnegie Mellon and be that, and somebody else called, right? Moved to New York. So I moved to New York. Boom, done. I'm in New York. There's 3 of us from Michigan. Kevin was one of them. Sleeping on that studio in the East Village. I just wanted to be in New York. I wanted to be surrounded by energy. It was the late 80s, early 90s. Great. We're living in the East Village. Being weirdos, being cool, it's fashion. And I'm a stylist now. So we're going to move on to my second happenstance, which happened in New York City. So as a young stylist, you get to know the designers and the people that are making things and what they're doing. And I met this woman named Lola Fattorati. She was like a young designer, and this whole deconstruction thing was happening in fashion with Marcella and Ender Mullemeister and Dries Van Noten. And she was the American cool kid. So of course I buddied up with her. She also lived 2 doors down from me on 10th Street and Avenue A. So we would see each other in the morning. Hey, what are you doing? She's like, I'm doing this collection. Do you want to help me? Great, cool. So part of my whole growing into this business was helping other people do what I love, because then I got to do what I loved. So she was a designer, so I would pick young designers in New York City every season, a new one, and help them do their show, help them find a showroom, get them pressed, introduce them to the magazine editors, and just get involved. And Lola was like, we're going to do the show. I know this woman, her name is Holly. She'll let us do it at the gallery. I'm like, whatever you talk about, whatever, this is stuff. So we get there, and it's Holly Solomon. I don't know if anybody knows who's Holly Solomon. And she was kind of, Mark, you probably know, the shit in New York for gallery art. Like, represented these major artists, but in my head, she was just a lady that I was introduced to, and we were doing the show at her gallery. So then it kind of, once again, where happenstance comes in is she befriended me. I was this young weird gay kid in fashion, and she taught me about art. And she really taught me about art, real art, from Richard Serra to Francesco Clemente. It just opened up a whole other fucked up world in my head of beauty and process and wonderment that happenstance. We became friends. She introduced me to that world. In that world, she was representing Mary Ellen Mark at the time, who's another photographer, amazing. She introduced me to Bruce Weber. These were her friends and her clients at the gallery, but I had no fucking clue who she was. She was just this wacky lady that came into my world and then befriended me and became a part of the happenstance. So for about 8 years there, I was helping young designers and meeting all these photographers and working on obscure projects and weird things, and it really shaped the way I looked at things, because it came from an art world then. It didn't come from the fashion world. It kind of slammed these worlds together and opened up another wacky door in my brain of how do I represent myself and my work through this medium of advertising, you know. A great experience. Holly died years later, but once again, I'll never fucking forget her. Like, she wasn't really my mentor. She was more of like a push. Like, I've had a lot of mentors, but there was something in Holly that she saw in me that I now see in other people, that I try to do the same thing, is walk along the same path. And like I said, she opened up this art world that I'll never forget because I knew it existed. You know, I saw it in Interview Magazine and I saw things, but to work with those creatives and for them to be in front of you and be human, just, you know what I mean? You think he's Andy Warhol, wow, blah, blah, blah. He's just a dude. You know what I mean? It's just, we have these personas. So that art world opened up. And what an amazing trip. New York for 12 years. Lots of great clients, lots of great work. But Hollywood was kind of the hapstance of opened another world. And without that, I wouldn't be here because then photography became my passion, working with these obscure photographers and collecting the work and then having that a part of my life and utilizing that in my later journey in San Francisco. Once again, hapstance. Somebody from Levi's called me and said, can you help us? We have a showroom in New York. They had a showroom that they used twice a year. And they would do shows for press and stuff. And I was like, it was like a phone call. I didn't even meet the people. It was one of those New York moments. You answer the phone, hey, what do you need? You need 16 mannequins, and we need somebody to do this, and can you do a set? And for me in New York, it's like you just call it in. Cool, great. We go, we show up, nobody was even there at the showroom. I didn't meet anybody. I set it up, it was all in boxes. We plowed it in there, great. 3 weeks later, they call me again and say, can you do the same thing in San Francisco? Cool, great, no problem. Fly out to San Francisco, spend 2 weeks, put all this shit together. Pretty, great. Easy for me, because I've done it. There's no live models, there's no photography. Boom, done. I'm in the elevator, it's weekend. Me and Tara talked about this earlier. And when I moved to San Francisco, I was a New Yorker, which means you're crazy. So everybody in San Francisco is like, wow, this guy's a fucking nut. Like, because we're working, it's 12 hours, I'm into it, pounding it out. And I keep on saying to people, why is everybody leaving? Like, we didn't leave in New York until midnight half the time. So I'm there on the weekends, and this is another happenstance. And I get in the elevator, and I'm carrying some shit, or I don't know what it was. It was insane. It's me and the security guards, because I tend to befriend all the security people or the staff, because that's a good way to get into the building and at odd times and days. And so you make friends with everybody. Maybe that's what we're going to get from this, make friends with everybody, because then I knew I could call the security guy and say, oh my God, I need the lift for a 16-pound Richard Serra sculpture. And they'd be like, no problem, Jeff. I get in the elevator, and there's this old dude gets on. Whatever, cool. I start talking to him, like, hey, what's going on? He's like, what are you doing here? Obviously, he knows that it's rare that people are here in the office on the weekends. Oh, I just came from New York, working on this project, training dockers, some, I don't know what it was, 2001, menswear, blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh, can I see it? I'm like, yeah, sure. Take him down, open up the door. And I had been inspired by Richard Serra, of course. So I covered the whole room in steel, like rolls of steel. It was fucking insane, it was great. These big rolls of steel come up, making these rooms, and I wanted you to, and it was a conference room, which was hideous. So I was like, how do we walk in the door and make people get chills? How do I change it? Because I'm not interested in working on jobs that are normal and or basic. Like, I want you to fucking feel it. I want you to walk in or see my advertising and go, ooh, that's interesting. Or where did that come from? Or how is it? So I covered this, there's a whole team of, we covered the whole room in metal. And then I bring in the collection, and there's music, and there's lights, and it becomes like a little film. So we open the door, and there's a tunnel. I'm a tunnel person. I like you to walk through a tunnel first, so I would have a tunnel right here. Like, that's kind of, so then you don't see what's behind it, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? There's this tunnel, and he looks at me like he's always going to be killed. And I'm like, don't worry. It's only me and you. Like, it's Saturday afternoon. We go in, and he's enthralled, and I turn the music on, and I turn the lights, and he's like, how did you do this? And I'm like, it's pretty basic. You know, like, oh, and he's like, everything looks so cool. Like, this is, you know, stalkers. Chinos. And it made it look cool. I mean, we did these visuals, and I was projecting color, and we have, everything was covered in the fabrics that we used for the collection. So I would say, you know, Chino number 103, that chair is covered in the Chino. Do you know what I mean? So it became, you're in it. It's not just a fucking Chino on a rack. That's what they were used to. We'd go in and it would just be like clothes and things. Anyways, we're walking through, I'm like, great to meet you. I did not say his name. No, it was just very innocuous. I leave, I set this thing up. Monday we have this huge presentation. Everybody's around from the globe, New York, LA, Dallas. They see it, everybody loves it, blah, 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 blah. And somebody comes to buy them. I had a really weird little, they gave me a corner office to shove all my shit in. And somebody that I didn't know came into my office after the presentation and said, hi, Mr. Hans, would like to meet you. I'm like, who's that? And haven't I already met him? And they're like, he's upstairs. And I'm like, upstairs? I didn't even know there was a 6th floor upstairs. Like, I had been on the 4th floor for 3 weeks straight. And my key card didn't let me above that floor, so I had no fucking clue what was going on upstairs. It turns out that Mr. Haas is the owner of Levi's. Happenstance. And I was just the weirdo friendly dude in the elevator that happened to show him what I was doing for his company. He didn't tell me who he was. It was very weird, but I was like, cool. Like, I'm all about that. Being like, who are you? What are you doing? Let's go. Like, she's like, would you like to stay? I'm like, well, I'm here. She's like, for the next year. And that's how I became the youngest creative director of Levi's. Dockers. Mr. Haas liked me. And I was honest and straightforward, and I guess he saw value in that. And I ended up being at Levi's for a whole other year. Dockers, international. They wanted me to wrap around international because we had a lot of licenses and all kinds of shit. So the first job after that, I moved to San Francisco, and all of a sudden I'm doing all of Pan Asia and Europe, overseeing all the licensing for the global brand Super Duper Freak Show TV. And I stayed for a year. It was awesome. But once again, happenstance where I didn't know this person. No clue. But I was open to experience, and I was more interested in why he was there, quite frankly, on the weekend. Because I was like, I'm here. Who's this one? Why is he here? What is he doing here? That's what I was thinking in my head. And how can I get in on it? Because he's doing something weird here too, on the weekend. Do you see what I'm saying? Like there was that kind of idea. I had no idea he was owner of Levi's. And he's still alive at 83. I might go visit him. It could be a really great reunion. Anyways, the third happenstance that kind of changed my life again. Like, woo, this is interesting. I was not interested in working for a company that long. I'd always been freelance, 2-3 months at a time, doing funky chicken things. Hence, San Francisco, I moved back to New York. The Gap that approaches me again. I had worked at the Gap for a while. I've done a bunch of weird stuff. Oh, the towers fell. I came back to Detroit. I was like, oh, I'm done. New York's not the same. Unfortunately, I had to watch from my apartment on 3rd Street that I had to pay that. The reason I bought the fucking apartment was because of the towers and I had to do it. I was like, well, I guess that's done. See ya. 30 days later, I'm out. Came to Detroit, screwed around here for a while. Had a little funky chicken with automotive, fooled around with Audi and a few other clients. And then I got a phone call from Bethany Shore. And she said, what are you doing? I go, what are you doing? Yet another creative. That's my call. Like everybody calls and says, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, what are you doing? And how can I get in on it? She calls me and says, listen, I was offered this class, but I can't teach it. You're the only freak I know that can do it. Can you speak with this guy named Vince? I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't know Vince was, but I'll take the call. Sounds fun. Cool. I call Vince Garbucci, who's here today. I had a CCS. He says, what are you doing? You want to teach the first fashion class here at CCS? I said, fuck yeah. And that's happenstance. Once again, never met Vince in my life, never saw him, never spoke to him. I've been in this community for a long time. Boom, yeah, do you want to teach? Great, cool, done. Opened up another door in another weird world of helping people, along with students, and showing them what and how I work. Great experience, thank you. Happenstance.
Thank you.
No, thank you, you're fucking awesome. Did that for a while, got married, played housewife. We did a few companies. We had a fragrance firm, a TV show for a while. I've been trying to buy her company for years. What else were we doing? Clothing, a clothing company. I then moved to Denver. Get rid of it all, start a new life. Decide that Denver is not for me. 10 months ago, I moved back to Detroit. And one of the things I said in my head was, that I wanted to relive my childhood as an adult. I know that sounds kind of strange. I inherited the house that I inherited a house that my mother had in Allen Park, and it was in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So I said to myself when I came back, I'm going to go to the ice cream shop, I'm going to go to the movie theater, I'm going to go to this place of pizza, the place on 4th Street, like I did as a kid before I left. I'm going to fucking do it all. In that was the Henry Ford Museum. And as a kid, as a strange little kid that had this, I like things, I like design, I like invention, and as a kid, that place is just overwhelming. It's crack for that. Like, I would sit there and just look at the things spin, and the wheels, and all kinds of things. So I started going, I got a membership, and every Wednesday at 9 a.m., for about 6 months, I would go and just walk and look at things. And remember that that's where it all fucking started in my head. That kind of catalyst of that and MTV. But really, it started at MTV was the push, but the Henry Ford was the interest of how that mechanic thing worked in my head and why it caught my interest. And then MTV came and fucking went to shit. So I went and started going every morning, and at this time, over the years, I had collected a large collection of textiles and vintage garments, because I was a stylist, so I was always shopping and on shoots with dresses and all kinds of shit, and I've always had a king for dresses on women. I think it is the best thing. I've done a film about it. I've talked about it on TV. The dress is, for me, the perfect design garment for a woman or a man. Anybody. Boop, out the door. You know what I mean? Like, it's the easiest thing. Like, you put the dress on it. Any dress looks great on people. I've collected them. So over the years, I've been dragging that shit around the country. So ever since this good. And the collection built. Very interesting things that I would find at friends' houses or flea markets. But I knew that certain things were collectible and or important in the design world. So I'm back here in Detroit, figuring out what the hell I'm going to do with my life. The gay guy with 150 dresses in his basement. Yay! Whee! Like, can I be any more predictable? The whole idea of where all these things were to get them to museums around the world. I knew that they were important. I knew that some other weird kid would enjoy them, but I didn't really know, so I sent out emails to people and made connections. The original idea was for the collection to go to different museums around the world. The V&A, the Met, FIT, the Henry Ford. Each museum would get what they didn't have. So one of the dresses in my collection is a Comme des Garçons dress in navy from 1983, which is extremely rare. The Met has the gray version. I have the navy version. So obviously I wouldn't give that dress to the Met, I'd give it to somebody else. But that was a Japanese designer. So originally I had emailed Josh at the museum, and the idea was just the American things, because what is the American Museum of Innovation? And then I was there being a weirdo one day, and they have this fantastic, which is right up my weirdo alley, a Hallmark ornament collection. And it's permanent. You laugh, but it's fantastic.
No, I know.
You know. This one knows. She collects ornaments too, when I told her I thought she was going to pass out. Like, get off the floor, lady. You have to go see it. So it's the largest collection, right, Mark, of Hallmark. Everybody, this is Mark. He is one of my new mentors from the Henry Ford Museum, and another fucking brilliant man that I'm proud to stand next to. So I go, and I'm like, oh, there's like, how many in the display? 7,000?
Yeah, about 7 times.
Right. So it's spectacular. But the best part is they have minis. Does anybody collect minis here? Mini things? Mini cars? So you get it. There's like a mini king there too. Along with the dresses, I have a king for minis. So they have the biggest collection of ornaments from a woman that had a shop, and when she passed away, the museum acquired that, and they made it into a permanent exhibition. And I'm, from like 1974 to current day, it's fantastic. It's like every little thing you can imagine, from full size to cars to Disney to the minis. So I'm, of course, obsessed with the minis, and I'm looking at 4,000, like the weirdo. And I walk out, and one of the one of the installers was there. Of course, once again, security guard, installer. Tell me about this. How did you install it? What is it going to be? Like, I want to know all the mechanics behind it too. How do you keep them from moving? Da, da, da. He says, oh, well, the curator's right outside of the thing. To say hi. So, yeah, stranger, it's cool. The curator and this gentleman was outside, and I started the conversation, exchange information. And I find out that it is another happenstance. That this person, Mark, who is an amazing human being and the most awesome curator at the most awesome museum, says to me, well, we'd be interested in maybe housing all of your collection in an archive. And I say, fuck yeah. In my head, it makes it easier, but in my head also, oh my God, I get to visit my old lady things. Like, if they ever go out, like, I get to go see them. Like, it became something way more than I ever thought it would be. Partnering with them and knowing that it's all housed so closely, and that that I wouldn't miss them because I know where they're at. And that was the last happenstance that changed my life. Once again, my life changed in another fantastic, weird way that opened up so many other things. And I think that's really what being a creative is. It's paying attention and looking at what we're doing and really diving into, we can all, I've done some really horrible advertising. I mean, I did Snuggle for a while and Ettiman's Donuts, to pay the bills. But I learned from it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I learned how to spit in the bucket 50,000 times when you're on a donut commercial, because then you can't eat donuts all day, so. But it's like, just the little middles of every job and every weirdo and every person built up to this moment that I didn't plan. That was happenstance. And I think if we all tune into that and just pay attention, happenstance today, Julie, where are you?
Oh, me, right?
Happenstance. Perfect example. I was bored at 4 in the morning, like the rest of us, and her profile came up, and I need a 2 and 3D motion graphics designer for a project that I'm working on with the Ruth Ellis Foundation, which we'll talk about really quickly in a minute. And there it fucking was. I met Messenger. She said she's coming. We met. At happenstance. I've been searching for weeks for somebody that I can be creative with, but not have to. I don't want to rule what she does. I already know what she does, and I'm invested in that, and she's brilliant. And I like just to kind of go, here you go. What can you do? How can you make this interesting for you, me, and the organization? And that's very rare, because usually we've got a set of deadlines, and we have a creative team that wants a certain way. And these kind of collaborations work really well for me, because I get to let the person who is truly a creative and a wackadoodle just do what they want. The only caveat to that one was we weren't allowed to show Nick. That was it. She asked me, well, what am I going to get? That's it. It's simple. I don't care what you do. Just no Nick. The photographers said the same thing too. Like, what? Like, no Nick. Like, that's it. I don't care what happens, just, that's it. So happenstance, how it works. I didn't explain it, I can't, but it's super wonderful. And that project is happening May 9th at the Kaiser Sudan Next Space Gallery over here in Ferndale. It is Ruth Ellis's 25-year anniversary. And we will celebrate Ruth's 25 years of awesomeness. Julie and everybody else. 25 dresses from my collection will be shown. Hopefully over the next 7 years, next year we'll do 26. The following year we'll do 27. The following year we'll do 28, 29, and 30, and by then I'll be flat. There'll be nothing left. But I want to show those things, and I want to show people that design can be anything. It can be a pair of sneakers, it can be the terrazzo floor, and some of the things that I have are kind of special. So I didn't want them just to go away and not be seen. And Ruth Ellis has offered me that opportunity to do every year for the next few years, show these garments to the public. And then they will go into the hands of another great institution, and hopefully one day 100 or 200 years from now, some weird old little kid will be able to enjoy them. Thank you all for coming.
We have like 5 minutes for some Q&A if you want to ask Jeff some questions, and I'll pass around this mic here.
There's gotta be some freaking here, come on. I know there's a room full of it, so.
Hey, my name's Matt. First I want to say I love your passion for the Headquarters Museum. I got married there. Pat loved it all, so it was amazing.
If anybody wants to come, I'm there every morning at 9 a.m. waiting for the museum to open at 9:30. I am there. I don't know everything yet. Hopefully I will in 40 years because there's so much. But the village just opened. That 111-year-old carousel is kicking my ass. Fantastic.
I'm sure we'll run into you at some point.
I'm sure you will.
So I'm a CX professional, and you touched on something that I've been dealing with a lot with creative teams that I've worked with, is how do they get started? Their biggest problem is they're trying so hard to be creative, especially for new up-and-coming creatives. They're trying so hard to say, I need this job to be perfect, my work is going to be judged, it's going to be looked at, and they're not realizing they have a deadline. So how do you get them to reconcile with the fact that done is better than perfect, understanding the meaning of design is to create something that's going to do a job?
Push forward, just get it done. I've been reviewing, I'm working on a book right now, and I've been reviewing all my past crap, and I'm like, how horrified I am.
Exactly.
From 25 years ago, but I was a different person then. I mean, it's really, when you think about it, 25 years ago, book covers, I was doing weird book covers at one time, and it was like, design was different back then. We didn't have technology. I used to, when I had a job, I would actually do research. I would go and buy books and go to the library in New York City and go to the net and do research on the project and print shit out and do this whole wall. Now it's all on our phone. We didn't have this. I had a flip phone in New York City. You couldn't barely get a BlackBerry. I mean, think about that. How many of us have BlackBerries? Like, ew. You know what I mean? It's like how far everything is going so quick that in that instance, do the best work you can. You know what I mean? Make sure you collaborate. My career would be nothing without all of you and collaborating. Having this hierarchy, I worked for Peter Arnell for a while, who's a big advertising freak, and he was all about collaboration. He didn't do shit. But he knew what to do and gather the right people that knew. You know what I mean? He was almost like the ultimate producer. His photography was shit. But he was a salesperson. And we did Donna Karen together, we did Samsung, we did all this crazy shit. We'd fucking show up, beep, 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 and then leave, and then have the assistants do the rest. But that wasn't what he was about, was that group, and that he knew he had the best producer, he knew he had the best pop stylist, he knew he had the best fashion stylist, he knew he had the best DP. So he could then communicate to that DP, okay, this is the shot I want it 30 seconds, I want 15 here, blah, 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 blah. And we all knew, plus we all worked together for 2 years straight, so you get comfortable with whose skills are great with where, but plow through, do you know what I mean? It's never going to be, you're never going to get it perfect. You know what I mean? The client, you know what I mean? I hate to say that, but
There are only so many ways we try to explain it to them.
Be creative and surround yourself with a team. And hopefully somebody in the team can point out maybe what's funky about it or what's great. And God. Any other questions?
Time for one more. Anybody?
Tom,
Or
do you
Hi, my name's Kenny. We're here.
Oh, hi.
Wonderful story, fantastic storyteller, by the way. I think the emotion that you conveyed in your story probably made its way soak up in all of your work. So, really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Something I've been increasingly interested in is lifestyle design, and it seems like your creative journey, you've continued to cast votes for exposure and finding potential versus a specific medium. Could you expand on that?
Once again, we'll go back to Holly Solomon and her being an amazing gallerist and keep her eyes open. Oh my God, I can't even tell you how many times where it was like, I recently just posted something about Dan Graham, who's an installation artist, and for some odd reason I was at the Dia in New York, and he did this They had just opened up. It was like 22nd Street, and that was the new Soho at the time. It was, you know, murder central. You never went over to that side of Chelsea. Now it's a completely different thing. But he had done this mirrored installation on the top of the museum, and I was like enthralled. I was like, it's fun house. It was fucked, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. And then like 2 weeks later, Audi called and said, oh, are you interested? And I was like, I got the book. I bought my books. I know that's weird, but I bought the book, and I was like, I'm going to see if they'll buy it. Let's see if they'll let me do this. I brought the book, and I was like, let's do this, and we'll make this whole, we'll call Dan, and they were like, okay. And I was like, sure, I can't believe this sold this. I kept my eyes open. It was something that I had experienced and felt really good about, and Holly taught me that. And I would have never been in that art world if I hadn't done the fashion world. And I was doing the fashion show at the gallery. You see what I'm saying? It's like, I kept all those options open, and I've always been interested in a lot of things, and I just kept the options open. It was strange.
So I guess you could say, you know, tunnels only for physical spaces and no tunnels and opportunities. Keep your eyes open.
Keep everything, this is an opportunity. There's a room full of opportunity here. How many people did you talk to?
About a half a dozen so far.
Okay, you got a half a dozen more. And that one person might, like, the other day I was at the grocery store and somebody had a weird nail polish on, and I liked the color, and I said to the woman, I said, excuse me, what do you want, old man? And he's like, what is that nail polish? It was like this aubergine NARS color. And it was like, it's fantastic, what a great color. I was buying groceries, going through the broccoli at Trader Joe's, and a woman was just reaching inspiration. And I'm probably going to use that color somewhere else, because now I'm obsessed with it. Do you see what I'm saying? So just keep your options open. This creative business or advertising business opens up to so many things. You know, you're going to lose 50% of the time, but you'll win the other 50%. Really. You're never going to win every client. You're never going to win every race. But you never know 5 years down the road what's going to happen or who's going to happen. That, I bought the NARS nail polish on eBay. See, this is how it works. It'll sit on my desk for the next 8 fucking years until I use it. That's how it works in my head. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I'm going to use it for a fashion project or it could end up the new color of Mustang. I could end up at Ford doing color one day and I'll be like, oh, where's that nail polish? You know what I mean? Like, I used to be a heavy collector of all kinds of shit like that. That kind of ended when I moved to Denver because I kind of got rid of things. But it's just those little things. I think that's really important. As a creative, I never thought I would be here doing this. I always knew I'd be in the business, but like how it transpired. I mean, I know people that are still stylists and are completely happy with being a fashion stylist. For me, it was always like, I paid attention, like I would always hang out because there's a lot of sitting around in advertising, especially on set. I'd hang out with the DP and be like, what are you doing? What's going on? How'd the camera work? And I was the fashion dude. You know what I mean? So pay attention. You know what I mean? And most of them had fun. I mean, I always had fun. Lots of fun. That's it.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody.